Dream Mirror of Terror, more like Dream Mirror of Terror Bowl, because this archetype is terrible. I thought it was a good pun, okay? Dream Mirror is a new TCG exclusive archetype coming out of Rising Rampage. With this in mind, is it actually good? Well, if you clicked on this video, you would have seen it say terrible, because it is, for now at least. In this video, whether we look at the cards or learn why it's terrible, today I'll be backing up my claim and explain why Dream Mirror is terrible right now. Before we get into that, if you guys want any of the cards mentioned in this video, just like the Dream Mirror archetype or any card in general, make sure you guys go down into the description and check out my TCG player affiliate link. By clicking on that link and shopping for anything, including the Dream Mirror archetype, you are supporting me immensely. So if you're buying cards or want to support me, make sure to check out my TCG player affiliate link in the description. With that, let's find out just how terrible Dream Mirror is. So getting right into this, how do Dream Mirrors work? Well, Dream Mirrors are an archetype revolved around their field spells. Basically, the idea is you have Dream Mirror of Joy and Dream Mirror of Terror. Joy is basically the light eccentric field spell, and Terror is the dark eccentric field spell, but basically your archetype is revolved around these two field spells specifically. Joy has an effect that can be applied while you control a light Dream Mirror monster, which is your opponent cannot target your Dream Mirror monsters by card effects, and their monsters have to attack the Dream Mirror monster with the highest level. And then you also have Dream Mirror of Terror, which can apply an effect depending on if you control a dark Dream Mirror monster, which is each time your opponent special summons a monster, inflict 300 damage to your opponent. Now, essentially, you want to control one of these two field spells at all times, because this is how your monsters get their effects. You need to control Dream Mirror of Terror or Dream Mirror of Joy, or just have one of these two on the field in general in order to really play at all. Dream Mirror of Joy and Dream Mirror of Terror can also fetch each other. Basically, during the end phase, Dream Mirror of Joy can banish itself to activate Dream Mirror of Terror from the deck or hand, and Dream Mirror of Terror can banish itself to activate a Dream Mirror of Joy during the end phase. You can technically use both the Dream Mirror of Joy to banish itself and then use Dream Mirror of Terror that you just activated from Dream Mirror of Joy. You can banish that Dream Mirror of Terror you just activated to activate another Dream Mirror of Joy, essentially meaning you can banish two field spells immediately and deck thin pretty quickly. Now, this is also relevant because of Dream Mirror Fantasy, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but these end phase effects are really important because this means Dream Mirror of Joy can either be Dream Mirror of Terror or Dream Mirror of Joy at any point. So it really doesn't seem like these field spells are that good and don't really gain you that much advantage. Well, you essentially need to activate these cards, and then your monsters are what gain you most of the advantage. So just like how we have Dream Mirror of Joy and Dream Mirror of Terror basically being opposites of each other, each monster has a light and a dark counterpart. And depending on which field spell you control, for light monsters you need to control Dream Mirror of Terror in order to tribute the light monster to summon the dark variant. For the dark monsters you need to control Dream Mirror of Joy in order to tribute themselves and change into the light counterpart. So the Dream Mirror monsters each have a basic line of text that basically reads, if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dream Mirror monster, apply X effect. And then during the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of X, depending on your attribute, if you're a light monster, it will read Dream Mirror of Terror, or if you're a dark monster, it will read Dream Mirror of Joy. So let's say we have a light monster in this case. During the main or battle phase, if Dream Mirror of Terror is in a field zone, quick effect, you can tribute this card, special summon one of the dark variant of this card from your deck, and then you can only use each effect once per turn. So breaking this down a bit, we have a few monsters, but breaking down the basic effects, first off, to gain any advantage, you need to have the correct field spell in your field zone in order to tribute your monsters at all and special summon the other Dream Mirror counterpart from your deck, and then you gain advantage from there. One issue is, if you have the incorrect field spell with the incorrect monster, you don't really gain much advantage until the opponent's turn. It's not really nearly as proactive, because of the fact that the Dream Mirror monsters have to wait can only tribute themselves during the main or battle phase and not the end phase. If you have a light monster on the field and have Dream Mirror of Joy in the field spell zone and you don't have Dream Mirror of Terror, you're not actually gaining any advantage from there. So you really have to wait a turn for your Dream Mirrors to gain advantage in that case, or if you do have the correct field spell, then in that case you can gain advantage immediately, but this is just something to note because it can make the deck more inconsistent. So now that we have the basics of the monsters out of the way, let's go ahead and see what they specifically do. So we have the light and dark counterparts of Akelos, the Dream Mirror Sprite for the light variant, or Mara for the dark variant. The light variant, when special summoned, adds a Dream Mirror card from your deck to your hand, and the dark variant, Mara, special summons a Dream Mirror monster from your hand when special summoned. So an easy combo you can do with the dark version of Akelos and Dream Mirror of Joy is you can activate Joy, normal Mara, tribute the Mara, summon the Sprite, and then the Sprite will add a Dream Mirror card from your deck to your hand. So in this case, really you'd either want Morpheus, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or Dream Mirror Fantasy, which again we'll talk about in a little bit. And then on your opponent's turn, because during your end phase you can switch the Dream Mirror of Joy into a Terror, you can tribute the Sprite, special summon a Mara from your deck, and then Mara will special summon the, assuming you grab Morpheus, you can special summon Morpheus from your hand and then pop a card. So this is a simple 2-card combo, putting 3 cards on the field, which like isn't really that great, but this archetype is just getting started, so we'll see how it goes from here. I think Sprite is really good, but Mara is kind of mediocre. Obviously Mara specifically meant to combo with Sprite, but you'd rather special summon something from deck, for example. Again, we'd have to wait for more support, but right now they seem very fragile because, for example, if Mara gets ashed or if it gets called by the grave or anything of the sort, you're not really gaining the ability to gain any advantage, and you're going neg, especially when you have a field spell that doesn't actually provide much advantage otherwise. And now moving on to Morpheus. So we have Morpheus the Dream Mirror White Knight and Morpheus the Dream Mirror Black Knight. So White Knight, when special summoned, can protect itself by battle and card effects for that turn. Being able to be safe from battle or card effects works really well with Dream Mirror of Joy on the field, because Dream Mirror of Joy is going to protect your Morpheus from targeting effects, and then with this 2800 defense, it provides a good wall just in general. And then we have Morpheus the Black Knight, which when special summoned can target a card on the field and destroy it, so giving the archetype very efficient removal. Black Knight is honestly a really strong card in this archetype, and I'm sure this card is going to be really good eventually if we get good enough support for the archetype. Lastly, we have Dream Mirror Fantasy, and because this doesn't follow a similar pattern, I'm just going to read its effect. So it's a normal trap card with the following effect. If you control a Dream Mirror monster, target one each of your banished Dream Mirror of Joy and Dream Mirror of Terror, shuffle them into the deck, and if you do, banish one card on the field. If a Dream Mirror card you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only activate one Dream Mirror Fantasy per turn. Dream Mirror Fantasy is incredibly good in the archetype. Because Dream Mirror of Terror and Dream Mirror of Joy can each banish themselves, one end phase sets up your Dream Mirror Fantasy immediately. And a non-targeting banish effect is so strong, especially on a trap card. Having this removal effect is good enough already, but the fact that it has a grave effect that protects your Dream Mirror cards like your field spell is also incredibly important in the archetype. Fantasy is an overall amazing trap card in the deck, definitely something to look out for if this archetype becomes any better within time. And technically that's about it for the archetype. It's a pretty simple archetype. Once you get the idea of it, it becomes a pretty simple archetype, but there are a lot of glaring issues. One, your normal summon is heavily fragile. If you normal summon a Sprite and it gets called by the grave or Ash Blossom, then you're basically losing because you committed your normal summon, and you basically have 3 cards to play with because your field spells don't really provide much advantage for yourself. They only just sit there, and that's another big issue with this archetype. They rely so heavily on the field spells, but they don't actually do much. Dream Mirror of Joy is incredible because of that targeting protection depending on what happens in the future. Remember SPYRAL Resort? Yeah, that card was incredibly dumb in SPYRAL. spirals, when spirals were tier 0 and tier 1. And dream mirrors have a similar type of field spell, but the glaring difference is Spiral Resort actually gives you more card advantage and isn't just a card to give you protection. It actually is a +1 with that targeting protection, while Dream Mirror of Joy isn't actually a +1 at all, and it doesn't really gain you much advantage. The deck needs more special summon outlets, it needs more proactive turn 1s, because really the archetype isn't that proactive. It will maybe normal summon a monster, and then from there you special summon one from deck, get a free +1, which is cool, but then your field spell doesn't really mean you have that much of a +1, so the archetype needs a better going first, especially more disruption, because the archetype isn't gaining enough advantage for you to just be special summoning a Morpheus to pop a card. Obviously they float, but it's not really the greatest without a field spell. Another issue, the field spells are highly targetable. If you Cosmic Cyclone Dream Mirror of Joy, well, you basically lose at that point. The last issue I'll mention is that this deck is horrible when going second. Like, what are you doing when going up against anything? Honestly, this archetype needs a lot more to be able to go second. And so I think one issue with this archetype in general is it's obviously set up to be a going first archetype, which is great and all, but when it doesn't actually gain you that much advantage, and when going second, it's really hard to play. I have some problems with that, and I think a lot of people will have problems with that too. In the end, this archetype is highly mediocre and just honestly terrible. They don't have the right cards just yet, but there are some highly promising cards. It definitely won't be relevant now, but in the future, with the right support of course, I think this archetype is looking to have a bright future, and with that in mind, that's why Dream Mirror is terrible, for now at least.